What's going on YouTube? Levi of Old Iron Off-Road. A shop all about internationals, off-road, and all the fun things. But today, we're not really doing any of those. Today, we're working on that guy. Up until recently, I've owned the same 91.5 12-valve first-gen four-wheel drive Dodge for probably about 11 years. And over the course of the 11 years, I pretty much rebuilt everything on the truck. Super reliable, just a really good all-around truck. As I've gotten older, that truck has become less enjoyable to drive. It's loud, it's rattly. 3 hours in the truck, you're ready to get out of it. So I actually went with my dad probably 8 years ago, and we drug this guy out of a field. It was actually sitting in a field, but it did have a metal building over the top of it. It is a 98 12 valve. This truck is a unicorn. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the history of the 12 valves, but 97, 98 was a changeover year when they were transitioning over to the 24 valves. First year that the back door actually opened. As you can see, we've got some go fast parts sitting in there. I've just taken this thing and had full interior detail done on it. Interior is looking like a new truck. And over the past year, Dad actually gave me this truck about a year ago. Over the past year, we have slowly been rebuilding pretty much everything on the truck. The engine's been out of it. I had a local guy. I didn't have time to do it. Local mechanic, really good guy, pulled the engine out of it. We did south bend clutch, oil pan gasket, oil cooler gaskets, head gasket. We put a new timing cover, the dail pin of that. Dad actually let the dail pin come out of this thing and they cracked the inner timing case. So we did a new inner timing case. Anything we could possibly do to the truck while the engine was out was done. I've rebuilt the front and rear axles completely, new ball joints, bearings, seals, brakes, everything that you could throw at it underneath. Put a leveling kit on it, all that good stuff, which leads us to today, the fun stuff. So we need another tow truck. Krusty is gone. We've sold him to a local friend. He's gonna go live a new life over there. I'm not really sad, honestly. He was a good truck. 11 years, he served me well. But we have, oh man, we got some bumpers on a skid. Front and rear bumper. No Brodozer stuff over here, boys and girls. We have ranch hand bumpers. That's right, we're turning this into an old school farm truck. And my favorite part, wheels, tires. So in this video, we are going to throw some wheels and tires, bumpers, and some go fast parts at this rig. We've got a full set of gauges, pyro, boost, fuel pressure. We have a mild fuel plate and a set of governor springs for it. Let's get into it. And we're back. So for some reason, and I'm sure all car guys feel that way, there's just something about a new set of wheels and tires that like really make the vehicle. So I would pull this thing in the shop, but we don't have any room. So I guess I'm gonna work on this outside. I'm gonna get the wheels and tires put on this guy so we can check out the new stance. I also have some factory Dodge centers that we're gonna clean up and polish up. And those should be a really nice touch to the black Steelies. So let's make it happen. Man, it's amazing what a new set of shoes will do for a truck. Next day, I get a chance, we'll pull it in the shop, we'll get the bumpers on it, get the Go Fast parts on it, so stay tuned. So it's Saturday, we're back out here in the shop, and we managed to drag this skid of bumpers in the shop. I think that's the next logical step. I'd really like to get straight to the power additives, but we're gonna hold off on that just to get this big skid out of my way, get these bumpers unpackaged, and see what we've got going on. And I may have mentioned this, but these are actually Steelcraft ranch hand bumpers. I really want this truck to have kind of an old farm truck-ish vibe. So let's get these guys unpackaged and let's see what it's gonna take to get these on the front of the truck. Oh man. Nope. I'd love to pick this up by myself, but I know it's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna enlist some help. My daughter actually stayed here last night, and it's not super heavy. It's just, I mean, it is heavy, but it's more awkward than anything, and I don't want to try to get it up on the bumper jack and get it aligned by myself. Definitely another set of hands will be beneficial, so I'm gonna go recruit some help. Yeah, a little helping hand. Got her on there without too much drama. I dig it. I was a little nervous about it. I was afraid it was going to be too big and bulky, but it actually really suits the front of the truck. I'm super happy with that. I've got all the gaps set. I'm going to jump under this thing, take an impact to all the bolts, make sure it doesn't move. I've got everything spaced so nothing should rattle. We'll get that buttoned up. We'll get this guy turned around, get the rear bumper thrown on there, and then we will jump onto the pillar gauge pod. We'll get that all wired up and maybe get that put in today. Oh man, this weather. So I decided not to make you guys watch me fiddle with this rear bumper. So we'll just give you a little preview of that. Boy, stance makes them dance. Very classy, very, very classy. I didn't want a brodozer look. I'm not that brodozer guy. If you're into the big wide forged wheels, then great, that's cool. But man, that's a proper truck. Looking forward to putting this guy to work. Should serve me well for years to come. Bumper's on. I'm gonna clean up the shop. I'm gonna grab the gauge pillar and some of the gauges, get those in the shop. We'll lay out this, lay out the wiring for that gauge panel, get everything put in, and get ready to get it in the truck. All right, so we've got our gauges and we've got our gauge pod. I'm not a super huge fan of the pillar pods, but the dash is trash in that truck, and until I replace it, I didn't want to put anything else through it or on it, so this is what we're going with. This is just a cheap pillar pod from Glow Shift. For the gauges, I did opt for the auto meters. I ran the auto meters in Crusty for 10 years of pyro and boost gauge and never had any issues out of them. So the same, actually the exact same gauges, the ProComp Ultralight series gauges. We've got a pyro, a 0 to 60 boost gauge, a 0 to 100 fuel pressure gauge. So we're gonna get these guys put together, and thought I ordered an install kit for this, but apparently I didn't. So we're gonna get these guys thrown in the gauge pillar, and we're gonna make up a wiring harness, the tube for the boost, just get everything basically ran down here out the bottom, trunked up the bottom nice, to incorporate this into the fuse panel, or to incorporate the ignition on for the gauges to turn them on, and the lights. There are a couple of different ways you can do it. You can actually run all the way to the headlight switch for your lights and just grab an ignition hot source wire somewhere. Typically what would happen if you did that is you would see people use half taps or wire taps. Not a good idea in any case ever, because they do eventually end up cutting the wire in half. People use them, people get by with it. I'm not that guy. So what we're actually going to use is a fuse tap. I've got some fuse taps on the way. Basically, you remove a fuse out of your fuse panel, you put this fuse tap in, and it replaces the original OE fuse location and gives you another location to fuse whatever source you're trying to heat up. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll get these guys thrown in, get a wiring harness made up, and be ready to put it in the truck. One gauge set up, wired up, TV playing in the background. I turn this off. We're watching the Story Till Now Killer Channel. If you're into off-road adventures, these guys getting some pretty remote places up in British Columbia, Canada. Pretty cool channel. Check it out. Anyway, got this guy wired up and was all gung-ho and about ready to pull the truck back in here, and I realized I did not buy an install kit for the fuel pressure gauge. So I just ordered that. I've got all the fittings and 6 foot of hose coming. It'll be another day before we can button this project up. So another day in the shop, and I've managed to sneak this guy back in. We've got a few days of nothing in that last bay. I'm gonna take advantage of it, hopefully just today. But we've got our missing parts for the fuel pressure gauge installation. Gonna get the factory pillar cover torn off of the truck. We're gonna start throwing these gauges in there. So let's get into it. All right, with a little persuasion, we managed to get the boost reference tube, fuel pressure hose, and our thermocoupler for the pyro through an existing boot in the firewall. Actually, it was a really nice big boot. Just poked a hole and got it to go through there. Everything's insulated nice, no issues there. And we have the wiring tailed out into the fuse panel already, and the pillar all mounted up. So I'm gonna get the wiring hooked up. I have to drill and tap the exhaust manifold, and I have to find a place to mount the boost reference tube. I may have to pull the air intake horn off and drill and tap it. But we're gonna get that done. We're gonna take this guy for a ride and get a good baseline to see what our EGTs are, what kind of boost pressure we're making, what kind of fuel pressure we're making before we start throwing power at this thing. It's a good scientific way to do this. You kind of establish a baseline, see how everything's running, see what it's doing, and then adjust from there. So we're gonna get that done. We'll see you in a few. So we got the gauge installed, buttoned up last night. It was late and I had some other stuff that I had to tend to, so we really into drive it last night. So now that the gauges are in, we're gonna rip this guy down the road and get a feel for what kind of boost we're making, see kind of where the fuel pressure hangs out, so we have a basic baseline established for when we start adjusting and modifying the pump on this truck. So we're ripping down the road. I'm gonna get some heat in this engine before we push it and beat on it. It's always a good idea to try to warm one up before you really flail on it, and see where we end up. But pulling a grade past my house, stock. Now this is a virgin pump. It's never been touched. It's still got the safety wire on it. Pulling a grade, we're already making 20 pounds of boost, which is actually pretty impressive for a stock truck. 20 pounds of fuel pressure, just cruising at 10 pounds of boost, and looks like the pyro's staying like cold, like super cool, which is always good. We're gonna change that though. I don't want to make this truck hot though. I know my old first gen, it was a little on the hot side for towing, and that's definitely not what I want with this truck. I want something that's got power and response, but it's not just like overly hot where you have to kind of worry about pulling grades. 20 pounds of fuel pressure. We're making boost just at cruise, which is good. That means the turbo's spooled and EGTs are cold. That's nice. So back in the shop, got this guy pulled in, got the hood popped, engine cooling off, fuel plate, governor springs. First order of business, we're gonna get the air intake horn off of this guy, and we're gonna dig into the pump. Let's get it. All right, so we've got the air intake horn off. We've got the intercooler piping capped off. I've got my grid heater in the top of the intake capped off. We pull the fuel shut-off solenoid out of the way, get the AFC housing off, and we should be able to get the fuel plate in, as well as get down to where the governor springs are at. Now again, I'm not super interested in turning this into a how-to video. There are plenty of videos out there on how to work on these things, so this is just more of a see how it feels, see to the pants kind of video, and just taking you along for the ride of us getting another tow truck back into service. So we're digging into this thing. We got to the AFC housing, which had a tamper-proof screw still in it. to find out that it already has a number 12 fuel plate in it, which number 12 fuel plate is very, very mild. And then that makes sense. That makes sense as to why this thing felt like it did fuel a little harder and why it was making more boost. So that being said, I think we're still going to go ahead and put the party plate in there. Might as well. So, I got my partner in crime with me. It's getting dark. I can't do race truck things in me film. I actually tweaked on the AFC housing. I got my low boost fuel where it needs to be. Zero haze on the top end, but also have very cool EGTs. So we may just take a, no, just don't do race truck things. Even though I want to do race truck things, she says no, but she don't know. It's fine. She's got some heat in the engine now, so we can rip around on her.
You know I get car sick, right?
Yeah. You're strong. You're tough. It's okay. You're tough. I'm already in boost. £32 of boost. We're running 60 miles an hour. Ah, man. That's why I love these trucks. You tweak a screw and throw a fuel plate at it, or on a VE rotary pump, you twist a couple screws and gain several horsepowers. I would guess, I think that fuel plate was rated for 320 horse. Pushing on it. That's full to the wood. We're just now at, God, this thing's
okay, we're
so
going too
crazy.
fast.
It's crazy how much faster it is than it was before. So you rode in it stock, dear. What do you think?
Yes, it's much faster.
Much faster.
Much faster.
So, race truck activated. This truck should be ready to pull towing duty here reasonably quick. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure to stay tuned. We've got lots of updates coming on the rock crawler video. I appreciate you guys at home taking the time to watch these videos. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below, and as always, enjoy.